Manx Radio Podcasts, powered by Shaw.
Hello and welcome to the Women Today podcast, a look back at some of our best bits from the 5 past days. And this week with Ms Holland away, we've been joined by various guest presenters, including Jason Roberts. Was that really a good idea? You judge for yourself. We've also argued about how to stack a dishwasher, heard why swimming in the sea is a weekly must for one of our guests. But first, on Monday, Karen Molyneux came in to tell us all about her experience of adopting her 2 sons. And she began by outlining just how long the process took.
It took 3 years from from applying to become adoptive parents. Then obviously you go through a process like Caroline said. We were accepted to be adopters. We found the children we wanted to adopt. That then had to go to panel, that then had to be accepted, and then we finally met them in May 2012 and brought them home in May 2012 as well, and then they were legally adopted by October 2013. But that date doesn't mean anything to me really, because really once they were in the house they were ours and that was it. You know, doors shut, they're our children now, and they were part of our family and have been part of our family ever since.
And how did you know that they were the right ones for your family?
Obviously you have a lot of paperwork about their background, so you find out as much as you possibly can about the children beforehand. And like Caroline said, we did go to meet them. We had a process where we met them for I think it was about 8 or 9 days beforehand, and we stayed at a small hotel and we went to meet them every day, and it just got the time we spent with them was a little bit longer each day to introduce them to us as well as that, us to them really. Yeah, it's difficult because you're in an alien situation. You're in somebody else's home. We did get to take them out and sort of play at happy families, if you like, but they don't really know you at that point. That's all learning. So as much as you want them to be your children, you can't really know, I suppose. There is a gut feeling that this is right. I suppose equally there'd be a gut feeling if it was wrong, and I suppose you just have to go with either one of those.
So they arrived on the island then in May 2012. What is that like? What is that like, suddenly looking around thinking, I've got a ready-made family here now?
We literally had, because we didn't know until we met them. We came home the day before they arrived. So we had 24 hours where we had friends coming round to the house and just getting their rooms ready, because we had stuff sort of on hold for them, but I didn't want to come home to a house that was ready made for a family if they weren't going to be coming, and you don't really know that until you meet them. So I would have found that too difficult. So we didn't actually go through that process until we knew that they were coming, and that was literally the day before. So yes, when they arrived, their bedrooms were just done, and they arrived with their foster family, and it was just surreal.
And what were those first few days like?
Just a blur, really. We did loads of things with them, just kept them busy, and it's difficult because obviously the foster parents were removing themselves from that situation at the time, and the boys were very, very young, and particularly my eldest felt very connected to them, and it was very difficult for him. He kept asking where she was, and that was quite difficult for us as the new family as well to take that. It was quite hard because obviously we wanted them to want us, but that's just a silly thing to think, really, isn't it? Because they're not going to yet, because they hardly knew us. They wanted what they knew. So yeah, it was hard.
And is that a very difficult stage of the whole process, that transitional period when there's a sort of handover going on? Is it something which is sort of clinical? Is it very emotional? Is it how would you describe it?
I don't know. I suppose it's difficult for everybody. It was quite emotional in our case because the foster parents had my boys for nearly a year, so they were very well. Particularly the foster mother was very connected to them, and although she wanted to move them on for their progression, she kind of, there was a lot of her wanted to keep them as well. So yeah, that was quite difficult because she was quite upset about it. But I still keep in contact with her now. I still send her pictures of them, and she wants to know. She wants to be involved in their lives. Really, she wants to know that they're happy, and she does ask if I haven't got in contact with her for sort of 3 or 4 months. She'll just send me a prompt. How are they getting on? She wants to know, which is lovely, really, because she obviously really loved them.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just going to say for the children themselves, they're coming from the fosterer to you. How do they adapt, or is it difficult for them to adapt from using one name for the foster parents, then coming to you as their adopted parents?
Well, the foster parents and the social workers try to deal with that as best they can. The children have had photographs of us beforehand. They have always, the foster parents refer to us as your forever mummy and daddy. So, they know that we're mummy and daddy, although they don't quite feel comfortable saying that at the beginning. Of course they don't. It's alien to them, especially when they've been calling somebody else mum. But they do their best to break it in gently. We sent audio tapes to them, and we basically read this book, so they had our voices, they could hear our voices, and we had lots of photographs, and the foster parents went through those with them quite a lot before we even met them. So they that we weren't just walking in, hello, here we are. They did have pictures of us. They knew who we were, and they knew who we were going to be. But as much as a 2.5-year-old can understand, that's going to be my new mummy and daddy. I mean, you'd have to ask them really when they're older, because it's really difficult.
And at what point did they feel like yours?
I think I would say the day they moved in.
And in terms then of we heard Caroline talking about sort of bonding and things like that, and the sort of process that you go through. How much support did you get for that?
A lot. They do have. They have workers in, I want to call it IOMAS, it's not IOMAS anymore, in the Children's Centre. They do come and give you help where they can. And there's also the fact that before they're legally adopted, the social workers for the children and our social worker as well, they all descend on your house every 2 weeks. So they are around, and that it's good because you need them as a sounding board. Obviously you do need them, but also you kind of wish them away, and I don't think they'd mind me saying that, because you want to get on with your own life, and it is difficult to kind of get on with your own life knowing that actually in a week's time I've got this visitor coming again, and it does disrupt the children because they're so little, they didn't really understand what was happening or who these people were, and you're trying to create a bond with them, a secure bond with them, but then you're introducing all these new faces to them every 2 minutes, and yet you haven't actually introduced your friends to them yet, because you're still trying to create that secure bond just one-on-one.
And the reality is you have entered at that point a completely different world, which includes things like, for example, mums and tots. What is it suddenly being immersed in that sort of scene? Oh,
that was just so strange, going to mums and tots, and obviously nobody knows. It's like the elephant in the room. No one knows that they're adopted apart from you, but you feel like it's glaringly obvious and that you're just a really rubbish parent. Here I am with my children, I don't know what I'm doing. And you turn up at mums and tots and you don't know anybody. So that was quite difficult. It took me quite a long time to make friends in that circle, because my friends had already had their own children and moved on, and not that I wasn't friends with them anymore, I obviously still am, but their children are older and they weren't at the same mums and tots. So yeah, it was difficult. It was like, I suppose it's like moving to a new place and not knowing anybody and just rocking up.
How open were you about the fact that you had adopted children?
I've always been quite open, because I don't want the children to be in a situation where somebody knows something that they don't, and I want them to be. And kids are cruel, and they're going to get teased for this, that, the other, anyway, and that's going to crop up at some stage. And I want them to be armed with a really good response, like actually, my mum and dad spent 4 years trying to get me. Your parents just got pregnant. I want them to be able to come back with my mum and dad, really love me, and they really worked hard to get me. So I'm really special.
So what would you say, we've heard a lot, and we were talking earlier on about how involved is the process. Clearly there's a lot of work commitment, but again we can hear in your voice as you're talking that the love, the joy, the passion coming through there. How would you describe the rewards involved?
I think the rewards are probably the same with anyone who has their own children. When you see your children progressing and doing anything that they haven't done before, I don't think it matters whether they're adopted or not. I don't think it's even a bigger reward just because they're adopted, although I suppose the only thing I could say is learning, at 2 years 4 months my eldest son was when we got him, and he couldn't really speak, so I had to teach him to speak. I suppose that was his biggest milestone, but now he's learning another language as well.
And how much do they know about their background, about their past?
They know. The Children's Centre are very good at arming you to be able to answer that question, really. and it's, I suppose it's true of any child, only answer the question that the child's given, because you can start going off under some massive description and they've just walked off and I'm playing with Batman now. They've lost interest. You only answer the specific question they've asked. They don't need any more information. So, they do ask, they haven't asked some hard questions that we know will come, why wasn't I wanted and that kind of thing, or why. But yeah, we're ready for them.
And if anyone's listening, Karen, and they're thinking about adoption, would you have any advice for them?
It's difficult to give advice because I think every situation is different. But yes, arm yourself with as much information as you can. I wouldn't necessarily say looking after other people's children was a good thing, because you don't always like other people's children. So that's quite a difficult one. Shouldn't say that. But yeah, so you could have a good experience or a bad experience, I'm saying, in that, I suppose. So, wouldn't necessarily help you. But yes, I mean, if you know how to change a nappy, that's obviously beneficial. Know how much to feed a child. Things like that used to worry me. How much should I feed my children? I don't really know how much to give them. So it's practical things, I think, more than anything else. You can't teach love. That'll just happen.
Jason, do you understand all this mortgage
Vaguely.
malarkey?
I mean, I've always seen mortgages as being a bit sort of beyond me, because I'm now in my 40s, I'm single, I have almost no savings. And so mortgages are a bit of a way away, I think, for me.
And, you're quite open about the sort of the situation that you're in. I mean, does it worry that you don't have a property?
It sort of worries me at times. It worries me more when I meet people, or you go out for a drink after Tinder and they say, I own my own home, and they're 10 years younger than I am, and I think, how did you manage that? I've worked for 24 years.
Whoa. Yeah. Let's just go back, please. Did you actually just say Tinder? You did.
I only go out with people on Tinder who specify they have their own homes. That's very important.
Do you want to describe what
Timber
Timber is to Beth? Because she won't know what it is. Did I actually say that?
It's the lumberjack shirt. She's obsessed.
No, you see, this is a whole new world to me. Tinder, what?
Swipe left, swipe right. No, you just sort of look at the photograph and say, no, I don't fancy you.
It's a
Swipe
dating
right.
thing.
Oh.
And if
if
you both swipe left on each other, then it tells you, oh, you've been matched with so and so. But it's very strange on the island because it's Tinder, and because, of course, it tells you have to sign in with Facebook, and it says you've got 5 mutual friends, and you think, oh no, I already know them, and now
Didn't
they know.
we have a situation, Jason Roberts?
There I am on Tinder, sort of clothes off, showing off my body, and you think, who's looking at this? So yeah, it's
When I first started at Manx Radio, I heard from Kate that Jason had turned around to Kate and said, "Oh no, Joe Pack's on Tinder. What do I Tinder?" See, I know not that much about it. Joe Pack's on Tinder. What do I do? Swipe left or swipe right?
I think I just swiped right. I was just like, no, definitely not.
And do you find out if somebody's swiped you right?
Oh, well, you don't get the match for them. You'd find out if they swipe left, because obviously I think men just go left, whereas women actually go, no, I don't fancy him. Yeah, I quite fancy him, but men just tend to be less picky about these things.
Sorry, Paul, we've completely gone away from mortgage, haven't we?
Far more interested in mortgages, don't worry.
Paul, I mean, is this a world that you're aware of, Paul?
I'm afraid not.
No, okay.
Oh, come on. Really?
Absolutely.
Jo can give lessons. She'll explain.
Ever heard of Twinder or Timber?
None of the above.
Our guest this afternoon describes herself as being a cross between a professional sports person and a complete buffoon. The fact, Cilla Parnell, that you swim in the sea, as I mentioned before the break, without a wetsuit all year round, at least once a week, kind of makes me want to agree with you. Why do you do it?
My normal response to this is, not on the lack of wetsuit bit, is that nobody can bug you when you're in the sea. If you're however far from shore, you can't have people giving you a hard time at anything. Bit of freedom.
Actually,
just
I think I'll put myself in the
very
sea.
liberating, and I do it with lots of super people.
I am going to say it though, Cilla. The water around the Isle of Man is not necessarily renowned for its cleanliness. Does that not bother you at all?
Yes, it does. It does, actually. It bothers me quite a lot. I am very fortunate in that I live in Castletown, and the water in Castletown is very good. Port Erin, where we swim quite a lot, is very good. Most of Douglas, most of the east coast of the island and towards the south is clean. Hopefully it will all get sorted around the island fully, because ideally swimming in sewage is not an idea of a good day out. But I'm quite happy that where I swim, the water quality is good. They have signs up everywhere. They test it monthly and you can see what the results are.
And last week you were swimming around the Tower of Refuge?
Yeah, no, it's brilliant swim around the Tower of Refuge. You have to be quite careful because it can get a bit choppy on the sea side of it. You have to be careful of the boats. They cause a bit of swell. I have to say that we don't just leap in the sea. I love open water swimming so much, but I am not into just leaping into a random bit of water. Every time I get in the sea, I do basically a mental risk assessment of what's going on, what else is going on in the water temperature, who I'm swimming with, the ability of the people I'm swimming with. When we're doing things like going around the Tower of Refuge, we will notify the Coast Guard before we get in and when we get out, because we do have occasion where very kind members of the public will ring in and say there's people in the sea. You know, I think I'm doing really beautiful backstroke or front crawl. They clearly think I'm drowning, but you know, that's the way it is.
We've had a text in from Kath who says that you are incredibly inspirational and talented, despite claiming that you fell into things by chance. And she wants to hear more about cool water swimming, which we will do in just a moment, but also how you cope when your body's core temperature drops so low.
The reason why there's a lot of issues in that's the wrong word, within the open water swimming community, people go, there's a difference between swimming in wetsuit or skins, and some people get a bit pretentious about it, and it's sort of, oh well, if you don't swim in skins then you're not a proper open water swimmer. Perfectly honest, I think that's just a load of nonsense. It's whatever suits you. When we did the Channel Relay about 3 years ago, you're not allowed to wear a wetsuit. So up until that point I had worn a wetsuit, but I find it very restrictive. I was getting really nasty rubs anyway, so we had to acclimatise. It was a really long process. You can't just leap into the sea. I sort of get mocked because I do constant tests when I'm in the sea. It's whether you can touch your fingers to your thumbs. If you can't do that, your fine motor skills are starting to go, which is one of the signs of hypothermia. We do mental arithmetic. So it's constant checks. I now have got to a point that I know if I'm starting to get too cold, and I will know that if the water's this temperature and I'm doing this, as in I'm swimming fast, or I'm just doing a bit of breaststroke, or a bit of synchronised swimming, which we do sometimes do, that because we're hanging around, that I'm going to get colder quicker. So you just sort of learn what your body's used to.
You mentioned the Channel Relay. That was the English Channel, which you swam back in 2012. I think I'm right in saying you're the first Manx-born person to do that?
I understand. At the moment, we think that I was the first part of a relay or any part to do the English Channel. It is a really big thing. I'm quite cynical about it because I swim with superbly brilliant swimmers. A friend did a two-way swim of Windermere a couple of weeks ago, which is about 24 miles, and that was a solo swim. So me swimming a few miles in the English Channel is nothing as far as I'm concerned. A friend very kindly pointed out that if I'd started the swim and I'd finished in France, actually I would have just gone to the beach for the day. So that's how I sort of see it in my head. I sort of, it's a bit of a joke really, I think.
So you are a qualified open water coach then?
Yes.
How much of a demand is there for that?
Open water swimming and triathlon are apparently the fastest growing sports in the UK. Most triathlons are done in open water. Therefore, there is a demand for coaching in the sea. It depends on the person, really. Some people are very, very confident and will quite happily just go in. There's groups around the island who do a swim at your own risk, but we meet at the same time every week, and it's not coached, it's just like-minded people having a lovely time. There are other people who might be very good swimmers, but they're not so confident on what to do. Getting lost in the sea is quite a big thing, actually. You haven't got the lines on the bottom of the pool to follow, you haven't got anything to keep you contained, so if your stroke isn't even and you zigzag a bit, it's very easy to change direction.
And have you ever got into a position where you have found yourself in trouble?
No, not yet. When not in that respect. When we did the Channel, we had to do a 2-hour acclimatisation swim, and it was supposed to be under a certain temperature, and due to weather conditions on the run up to doing it, we were in a lake in the Lake District, and it was about 9 degrees. Now, it is said that at 9 degrees most people would be unconscious within an hour. of being in at that temperature, and we were supposed to be doing 2 hours in that temperature. We got to about an hour and a quarter, and we made the decision that we weren't going to complete that swim. So we got out and we did our qualifying swim at a different time. So that's probably the nearest that I've had to getting into trouble.
I think that's as near as I'd want to get. You coordinate your nails with your swimming costume?
I do. I spent my whole life swimming or teaching swimming, and I spent my whole life basically in wet lycra, which most middle-aged women don't really aspire to. I didn't grow up thinking I want to stand in public in wet lycra. So my only bit of glamour is to try and get my nails to be a bit glitzy, and I have had people notice it. A woman collared me in a hotel once and said, "Oh, you swam in the Great North Swim yesterday, didn't you?" And I was sort of, "How did you know? Was I truly fabulous?" And she went, "No, your nails match your wetsuit."
Okay, here we are. Here's a dishwasher. We've all got things in our hands. Does it really matter how you load it?
Yes, on the bottom layer, but not the top layer. The top layer is some kind of mystical art that I've never managed to work out at all, because the bottom layer looks like it should have plates and where you put the cutlery. The top layer, no
See,
idea.
I've worked out the top layer. The top layer is you have glasses at the edge and then mugs in the middle.
Whatever happens, we'll disagree, my wife and I, on how it should be done. I'll stack it. It'll be rearranged. My basic modus operandi is big pots down the bottom, plates towards the bigger plates, like there's one there now, towards the outer side, and the smaller plates in the little racks, so going in towards the middle, and the really small things and the mugs on the top.
Do you know what? It doesn't really matter, right? Just put the cutlery in the cutlery drawer. Anything else just fits in.
The
doesn't
cutlery, it doesn't matter. I don't care how the cutlery
Well, actually,
goes,
if
but
you-
everything else you've just said is wrong.
No, it's not. Like, cups go on the top. Look,
Yeah,
cups
no, I
on
appreciate
here.
that look.
They've got the little knobbly bits for the cups.
But what's the bit
Yeah.
that always leans down?
But
They're
that's
for
your
sharp
wine
knives.
glasses.
No, that's to put your glasses against. That's to put your
Sharp knives?
No, that's
Yeah, well, my one, it's got little knobbles on it.
Wait,
for sharp
you
knives.
just said that cutlery goes in the cutlery
Yeah,
bit.
but
so-
sharp knives don't.
No,
because
no. Because you've
Right.
got the sharp knives
Yeah, sharp
upside
knives are-
down, and then this is for your wine
That's for
glasses.
your
So
wine
you can,
glass
that's
stems,
the
yeah.
neck
Amy,
of the
Yeah,
wine glass.
but you can still have that down. Put your sharp knives on top of there, and your wine glasses can still
Where
go
do you
on
put
top.
chopping boards?
I don't put
I
chopping
don't
boards
put chopping
in.
boards
What?
in.
Yeah, because
Not
you
wooden
can.
ones.
Well, not
No.
wood ones, plastic ones, but you can
No.
Yeah,
jam
but
them
then
at
you
the
get like
side.
the little nicks in them. I've done
Or
that so many
actually,
times
what is
before.
my one actually doesn't have one of these baskets. Mine's got a little top drawer which pulls out here, and you've got all
Oh,
your
yeah,
cutlery on
yours
the top
would,
drawer.
Oh,
wouldn't it?
that's
Yeah.
fancy.
But cutlery, knives facing down.
Yes,
Yes,
knives
yes,
down.
yes, that's
Because
true.
if anybody tripped and fell, then you're not going to stab
But then
yourself.
my
Because lots of
dad
people are
tells
doing
me
running
off-
around kitchens.
My dad tells me off for putting them upside down because he's like, you've got to put them up, otherwise they don't clean properly. And I say,
Yeah.
well, what about when I'm going to get them out of the dishwasher and I
There's
cut my
also,
hand?
if they're a valuable knife, you put the knife down, you can damage the blade.
Right, okay. 1, 2, 3, go. Stack it. Let's go.
Okay, that goes in there. That goes in there.
No,
You're doing it
no.
all wrong.
They go in there.
What are you
They go
doing?
down there.
Well, bowls go there.
Put balls on
And
the
you must
top.
remember.
They won't fit to the bottom.
Don't sit in the slow lane. Join the fast lane right now with Shaw's all-new Superfast Plus broadband. Enjoy more bandwidth, amazing speeds and the best value on the island from just £23.95 per month. So don't be left behind. Get a piece of the high-speed action with Superfast Plus broadband from Shaw. For details, visit our stores in Douglas, Ramsey and Port Erin or click shaw.com. Terms and conditions apply.